The research ship Horizon Dawn moved through the silent darkness of deep space like a lonely silver bird searching for answers. Most of the crew thought this part of the galaxy was empty and calm, but Evan Cole never believed in empty places. He always felt the universe was hiding something, waiting for the right person to find it. And on this night, his feeling became real. Evan was checking the outer sensor panels when a strange signal blinked on his screen. It was weak, slow, and irregular, almost like a heartbeat that was fading away. At first, he thought it was a glitch. Space was full of random noises. But the signal came again, stronger this time, and his skin prickled. This was not a glitch. Something out there was calling for help. He quickly sent the data to the bridge. Captain Rhodes frowned at the screen. This signal is old. Could be. A dead probe. Could be a trap. But Evan shook his head. Captain, this is a life sign pattern. Someone is alive. The room fell silent. Against the captain's initial orders, the ship changed course toward the drifting signal. As they got closer, the crew saw a small, damaged escape pod spinning slowly in the void. Its metal surface was burnt and cracked as if it had survived a violent explosion. Strange, glowing lines ran across the hull, symbols that did not match. Any known alien language? Evan felt his heart pound. The escape pod didn't look dangerous. It looked abandoned. The docking bay lights turned red as the pod was brought inside. Security teams stood in a circle, weapons raised. Everyone expected. A monster or a parasite or something deadly. Only Evan stood close, staring with curiosity and concern. The pod suddenly emitted a low, painful hum, like something inside was struggling to breathe. Then the front panel opened with a soft hiss. Inside, curled up and barely moving, was a small, alien female. Her skin was pale silver and covered in faint glowing marks. One of her eyes was closed, swollen and injured. Her left leg lay twisted at a painful angle, clearly broken. She looked weak, fragile, and frightened. Nothing like the powerful alien warriors everyone imagined. She's just a child. One of the crew whispered, "No." Evan said quietly, "Not a child, just hurt." The alien opened her remaining eye. It glowed a soft blue, meeting Evan's gaze with fear and confusion. She tried to sit up, but collapsed with a sharp cry, too weak to hold herself. Her breathing was shallow, like she was trying to survive on her last bit of strength. The science officer stepped forward, her voice cold. "We cannot trust this creature. Look at those markings. She could be infected. Put her in containment." But Evan stepped between them. "She's injured. We need to help her first." The alien flinched at the loud voices around her. She lifted her trembling hand as if begging them not to hurt her. The glowing lines on her skin flickered weakly, then dimmed again. "Stand back." Evan, the captain, warned. "We don't know what she is." Evan didn't move. Something inside him refused to let them treat her like an object or a threat. Her fear felt too real, too human. He knelt slowly and held out his hand, palm open. "It's okay," he whispered softly. "You're safe now." The alien stared at his hand for several seconds. Her breathing slowed a little. Then, with a trembling motion, she gently touched his fingers. Her skin was warm, and the glowing marks brightened faintly at the contact. Suddenly, the ship's internal alarms blared. Beep, beep. Everyone jumped. "What now?" "The captain?" shouted. The officer at the console looked shocked. "Sir, the alien pod was sending a hidden signal. It activated the moment she touched the human." Evan's eyes widened. "What kind of signal?" "A warning signal," the officer replied. "Someone out there knows she has been found." The crew exchanged terrified looks. If someone abandoned this alien, someone hurt her this much, then whoever they were might now be coming. The alien tightened her grip on Evan's hand, as if sensing danger. Her eye widened with fear. Evan whispered, "We're not letting anything hurt you." But deep inside, he feared the truth. Something powerful was coming for her. And finding her might have just put the entire human ship in danger. Asterisk, the alien girl was taken to the medical bay. But not with kindness. The guards walked beside her with weapons ready, afraid of the small, injured creature who could hardly stand. Evan stayed close, worried she might fall again. Every time the ship vibrated or someone shouted, she flinched like she expected to be hit. Inside the medical bay, bright lights reflected off silver walls. The alien blinked rapidly, trying to adjust. She sat on the edge of a metal bed, shaking. From fear more than pain. Her broken leg was swollen, and her breathing was uneven. She looked fragile, like one wrong move could destroy her. The doctors stood in a group, whispering, "Her body structure is strange. She might be dangerous. Don't get too close." None of them stepped forward to help. Evan finally spoke. "She needs treatment. She's hurt." One of the doctors turned to him with a cold expression. "She is not human. We don't know what she carries. Diseases, parasites, biological traps. We can't risk it." "But she's suffering," Evan insisted. The alien looked at him with her one good eye, confused. She didn't understand their words, but she understood rejection. She had seen it before. She felt it before. The way people looked at her was familiar fear mixed with disgust. It made her shrink back, clutching her injured leg tightly. When a doctor held up a scanning device, she panicked. She pushed herself back on the bed, curling up like a wounded animal. The glowing lines on her skin flickered in terror. "She's reacting." A nurse shouted, "Step back." Another yelled. Evan raised his hands to calm them. "She's just scared. Stop shouting." He turned to her, lowering his voice. "It's okay. They won't hurt you." She watched him closely. His calm voice slowed her breathing a little. The doctor sighed loudly. "Fine, we'll do a basic scan, but she stays under active restraint." They brought out mechanical cuffs. When the alien saw them, her whole body went rigid. She shook her head and made soft clicking sounds. "Please, cries. Anything to say?" "No. She doesn't want restraints," Evan said quickly. "Too bad," the doctor replied. "She's not human. She doesn't get a choice." That sentence hit Evan like a punch. The guards moved forward. The alien jumped back in fear. Her injured leg unable to hold her. She fell, crying out in pain. Her glowing marks dimmed as she curled up on the floor, trembling violently. Evan stepped in front of her. "Stop. She's injured. She won't run." The guards froze. Everyone stared at Evan like he was crazy. "You're risking your life for something that isn't even your species," the captain said coldly from behind. Evan looked down at the terrified alien. "She's alive. That's enough." Slowly, he placed his hand on the floor in front of her, palm open. The same gesture he used when he first found her. The alien hesitated, then reached out and touched his hand again. The glowing marks on her arm brightened weakly. That simple touch changed the atmosphere in the room. Everyone could see the connection, the trust she had in him, and no one else. The captain sighed. "Fine, no restraints, but keep her under watch." The doctors treated her injuries, though their hands trembled the entire time. The alien tried her best to endure the pain silently, but soft whimpers escaped her when they moved her broken leg. Evan stayed beside her, whispering gentle words. "You're doing great. It's almost over." She didn't understand the sentences, but she understood his tone. His voice was the only safe thing in this cold room. After treatment, the captain gave a strict order. She will be moved to isolation chamber. No one interacts with her except security. The alien's eyes widened. Her body tensed again. She grabbed Evan's sleeve with surprising strength, refusing to let go. The glowing patterns on her skin flickered desperately. The guards tried to separate them. The alien's breaths turned fast and sharp panic, raw and deep. She didn't want the cold room, the strange machines, the staring eyes. She wanted the only person who showed her kindness. Evan kept his voice calm, even though the situation tore at him. "It's okay. I'll still be here, I promise." His promise made her loosen her grip slightly, but fear still shook her body. The guards led her away slowly. She looked back again and again, her eyes shimmering with fear and confusion. When the door closed behind her, the room suddenly felt colder. Evan stood in silence, watching the empty corridor, feeling a heavy weight inside him. One thing was clear. The crew didn't trust her. The captain didn't want her. The ship didn't welcome her. She was alone again, rejected by everyone except one human. But Evan didn't know yet that isolation would reveal the first secret of her species. And that secret could either save the ship or destroy it. Asterisk. Isolation was quiet, almost too quiet. The alien girl sat in the small chamber, her broken leg resting on a soft mat the medical team had given her. The walls were white, cold, and empty. The only sound was the faint hum of the ship's engines. She hugged her knees, staring at the corner, as if imagining herself somewhere far away, somewhere safe. Evan stood outside the reinforced glass, watching her. He could see the fear in her glowing blue eye, the pain in her movements, and the sadness that no human could have caused. Yet he felt it as if it belonged to him too. He pressed his hand against the glass. She flinched at first, then slowly mirrored the gesture. A tiny connection, silent and simple. It was the beginning of trust. For the next hours, Evan visited her whenever he could, bringing small things, water, soft cloths, and a strange little device he had modified to communicate. The alien was curious, but wary. She tapped on the device, making clicks and glowing patterns that the computer could not understand. Evan laughed softly. "We'll find a way," he said. "I'll learn you, you'll learn me." It was slow, frustrating, and sometimes heartbreaking. She screamed when he tried to gently straighten her leg for treatment. She refused to eat at first, and the medical synth had to coax her. But Evan never gave up. After days of patience, something changed. The alien learned to recognize a few words. "Safe friend, Evan." And surprisingly, she whispered back, repeating his name in soft, melodic sounds. That evening, while the ship drifted near a small, glowing asteroid field, Evan noticed something unusual. The alien reached out and touched a piece of exposed metal near the chamber's wall. The metal bent slightly under her touch and then shimmered with a faint blue light. She pulled her hand back, wincing. "What is it?" Evan asked, amazed. She pressed her glowing marks to her chest, trembling. The marks flickered with light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Evan realized that touching metal hurt her. But the power she had, he couldn't explain it yet, was extraordinary. Over the next few days, Evan experimented carefully. He gave her small objects to touch, broken tools, metal plates, tiny panels. Each time, the metal healed or reshaped slightly, glowing under her fingers. But each time, she shook and closed her eye, showing real pain. Evan knelt beside her one night, exhausted from worry. "You're amazing," he whispered. "You're not weak. You're stronger than anyone on this ship." The alien tilted her head and looked at him, her single eye wide. The blue glow from her skin pulsed softly, almost like she understood him. For the first time, she moved without fear. She touched his hand lightly, and the marks on her arm glowed warmly. Their bond was no longer just survival, it was trust, friendship, and understanding without words. Evan noticed that the ship's alarms often seemed quieter when she was near. He thought she might sense danger before the sensors did. Then the higher command sent orders. She had to be moved to a more secure isolation zone, far from the crew, because her presence was a potential threat. The alien froze when she heard this. She turned to Evan, glowing patterns flickering rapidly, and pressed her small hand against the glass. Panic flashed in her eye. She made soft clicking sounds that almost sounded like words, "Don't leave me." Evan's chest tightened. "I'm not leaving," he said, pressing his hand to the glass. "I won't let them take you." That night, Evan stayed in the chamber longer than usual. T watched her slowly curl up, exhausted, but her glowing. I kept scanning the room, alert. He wondered how long she had survived alone before he found her. What fear, what pain, had taught her to trust no one. As the ship passed the edge of a nebula, strange signals flashed across the sensors. Evan noticed them, but didn't want to alarm her. Maybe she already sensed it. Keiichi, maybe she already knew that being found might bring danger beyond the human crews. Imagination, the alien rested her head on her folded arms, her glow dimming. Evan sat beside her, whispering softly, "You're safe for now. I'll keep you safe." For the first time, she allowed herself to relax slightly, leaning into his presence. Her glowing patterns pulsed in gentle rhythm, almost like she was speaking in her own silent language. Evan realized something important. She wasn't just a helpless creature. She was someone unique, powerful in ways humans could barely understand. And yet, she chose him. Out of everyone, she chose to trust one human. As the stars moved past the glass window, Evan felt the weight of responsibility settle on him. Their bond was fragile, but real. If the rest of the crew rejected her, if the galaxy outside was hostile, he would protect her at all costs, and deep down, he knew. Their connection might be the only thing that could save both of them. Days passed. In quiet tension, the alien girl, now named Lyra, had begun to trust Evan completely. She followed his gestures, responded to simple words, and even tried to mimic some human sounds. But behind her glowing blue eye, there was always a shadow, a memory, a fear, something unspoken. Evan had been careful. He kept her hidden in the engine maintenance sector, a place the crew rarely visited. She could rest there without prying eyes, and the hum of the engines made her feel safe. But he couldn't ignore the feeling growing inside him. There was something about Lyra, something she was not telling him, that could change everything. One evening, Evan brought her a small datapad with images of planets, stars, and humans. He wanted to teach her more, show her the universe, and help her understand her new life. Instead, she reached for the pad and drew strange symbols, glowing faintly in the dim light. Evan leaned closer, fascinated. The symbols formed patterns he couldn't understand, lines connected in strange ways, like a map or a story. "Are these words?" he asked softly. Lyra tilted her head. She tapped the symbols, then tapped her chest and leg, making soft clicks. Slowly, a story began to emerge. She was not just abandoned because she was injured. Her people, her own species, threw away those they considered imperfect. Evan's stomach turned. They cast out children like you. She nodded slightly, her glowing marks flickering weakly. Then she made a gesture that froze Evan's blood. She mimicked being thrown, spinning through the air, her body hitting metal and fire. He remembered the escape pod, its broken metal hull, its weak signal. She had been thrown into space like garbage. Why? He whispered. Lyra clicked and drew a symbol that looked like a crown, then a line dividing two smaller figures. Hierarchy, Evan realized. Power, strength. Only the perfect survive. She tapped the pad again, and suddenly, Evan felt a warning pulse through the ship's sensors. Lyra had made contact with something outside, without touching any equipment. The alien presence within her was more than physical. It reached out, sensing danger. She moved closer to Evan, one small hand brushing his sleeve, glowing faintly. Her single eye looked worried, almost pleading. She tapped the symbols again, faster this time, and pointed to the stars outside the window. "Coming," Evan said, understanding her meaning. "They're coming for you." Lyra clicked sharply. Repeating the gesture, she wasn't afraid of humans. She was afraid of her own people. Those who had abandoned her, and now would come to ensure she stayed gone. The thought made Evan's chest tighten. He had imagined danger from unknown aliens before, but never from a species capable of casting out their own children and hunting them down when someone else dared to help. "We need to hide you," he said quickly. "They can't find you." Here, she shook her head slightly. Her glowing marks pulsed with hesitation. She tapped her chest, then Evan's. It was a strange, stagious, silent communication. She trusted him, but hiding alone would not be enough. Her people were powerful, precise, and relentless. Evan swallowed hard. "You're stronger than anyone thought. And I'll make sure we survive this together." Her eye glowed brightly for the first time since he had found her. Not just fear, but determination. He realized that while she was injured and fragile, her mind and instincts were sharper than most humans. The ship's sensors suddenly picked up movement in the nearby system. Massive shapes, almost invisible in the nebulous glow, were approaching at speed. Evan's heart sank. He recognized the pattern from the signals Lyra had sent. These were not explorers, not scouts, they were hunters. She pressed her hand against his, and he felt it, a pulse of warning, of knowledge, of memory too old and deep to explain. He understood then, she alone knew their tactics, their weaknesses. And if they wanted her dead, the entire human ship could be next. Evan tightened his grip on her hand. "We fight together," he whispered. The stars outside swirled with quiet energy, the nebula glowing red and purple. Somewhere out there, her people were coming in. They would not stop until they got what they wanted. Lyra leaned slightly into Evan, trusting him completely. Her glowing patterns flickered like a heartbeat, fast and strong. For the first time, Evan understood the full weight of the secret she carried. A fragile, disabled child of a ruthless species, with knowledge and power that could save them all, or destroy them. And in that moment, the bond between them became more than friendship. It became survival. Asterisk. The stars outside the horizon dawn shimmered like distant flames, but nothing looked calm anymore. Evan watched the sensors with growing dread. Massive shapes were emerging from the nebula, huge, sleek ships that moved with deadly precision. The alien fleet had found them. Lyra, sitting quietly beside him in the engine sector, suddenly stiffened. Her glowing marks pulsed rapidly, faster than ever before. Evan noticed the change immediately. Her eye darted toward the approaching ships before the sensors even confirmed their positions. "They're close." She clicked softly, a sound that made Evan's chest tighten. Her tiny hand brushed his arm, and he felt an electric tingle, a warning from her alone. She knew. The first blast came without a word of warning. The ship shook violently, alarms blaring, lights flickering. Metal screamed as the impact tore through the outer hull. Crew members screamed, scrambling to their stations. Evan grabbed Lyra, shielding her body with his own. Her small frame trembled, but her glowing patterns flared brightly, as if trying to warn him, to help him understand the attack. The energy from the enemy weapons washed over the ship like a wave, shaking every corridor. "Evan," one of the engineers shouted, "we can't hold this. Shields are failing." Lyra's eye flickered in alarm. She tapped her glowing marks to the wall. The metal bent slightly, then hardened as if she had tried to reinforce it, but the movement made her gasp in pain. Evan realized that every action, even the smallest, drained her energy. They're hunting her, he thought grimly. She's the reason they came. The second blast hit closer. Sparks flew across the engine sector, and the floor shuddered. Evan shielded her again, whispering, "We're okay. We'll be okay." But he wasn't sure. The enemy ships were precise. Targeting every weak point, the sensors revealed. Lyra, despite her injury, tried to move toward the ship's control console. She tapped the panels, the glowing marks on her hands interacting with the human technology. The metal hummed under her touch, bending and reshaping in ways humans could not. It wasn't just strength, it was intelligence, instinct, and survival. Combined. Evan followed her, helping her balance on her broken leg. "We need to use this," he shouted over the alarms. "You can guide the shields." She nodded, but the movement made her wince. Her glowing marks dimmed as she pressed her hand to the console. The shields responded, bending energy around critical points, resisting the alien fleet's blasts. Sparks flew across the panels, but Evan could see it working. They had a chance if only she could keep going. The alien fleet fired again, larger and faster this time. One of the massive blasts tore a hole in the outer hull. Evan pushed Lyra behind a reinforced column, shielding her as the metal buckled. The hum of her glowing marks flickered weakly. She was exhausted, injured, but still fighting. "Keep going," he urged. "You're the only one who can stop them." The ship shook again, and a corridor seal exploded. Crew members struggled to keep systems running, but panic was everywhere. Only Evan remained focused on her small form, fragile yet powerful. Lyra tapped her hand on the console once more, and this time a new pattern emerged. The shields began to adapt, bending the energy blasts away from critical systems. Evan realized she was predicting the enemy's attacks, not just reacting, but anticipating. But then she gasped and collapsed to the floor, her glowing marks dimming almost entirely. She had used too much energy. Evan caught her, his heart pounding. "Stay with me," he whispered, holding her tightly. The alien fleet hesitated. The humans had survived the first wave, their shields bending attacks in ways no one had predicted. For the first time, the alien ships pulled back slightly, confused by the unexpected resistance. Evan looked down at Lyra, exhausted, weak, and in pain, yet alive. Her small body trembled, but her eye flickered at him with trust. He realized the truth: she had saved them. Without her, the ship would have been destroyed. But the battle was not over. The fleet would return, stronger, smarter, deadlier. And Lyra, the fragile alien rejected by her own kind, had just become the key to survival for humans and herself. Evan tightened his grip on her hand, whispering, "You're amazing. You saved all of us." Her glowing patterns pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat in response. And for the first time, Evan felt that even in the darkest chaos of space, trust, courage, and friendship could be stronger than any weapon. And in that moment, he knew one thing. The bond between human and alien was no longer just survival, it was hope. The ship was quiet now, but only in appearance. Sparks still flew from damaged panels. Alarms buzzed intermittently, and the crew worked frantically to repair what they could. Yet amidst the chaos, Evan focused on Lyra, who sat on the reinforced floor of the engine sector. Her glowing patterns flickering weakly like fading stars. Her energy was almost gone. Every movement, every touch, every action she had taken to guide the shields had drained her. Evan could see the exhaustion etched into her small frame, the way her injured leg trembled beneath her. He knelt beside her and whispered softly, "You saved the ship. You saved everyone. But you need to rest." Lyra looked at him, her single blue eye glowing faintly. She tilted her head and made soft clicking sounds. Evan didn't understand the words, but the tone carried urgency. She was not done. She had more to give. Evan's heart clenched. You don't have to. I'll figure it out. We can survive. Without you pushing yourself this way. But Lyra shook her head slightly and tapped her chest, then his. She wanted to bond her way of sharing knowledge and power, but it came with a cost. Every bond weakened her body, every pulse of energy left her trembling, and the risk of permanent damage was high. Evan realized the choice she faced. Protect herself and remain weak, but safe, or bond fully and risk her life to save the ship. The thought of losing her made his stomach turn. He held her glowing hand gently. Lyra, it's your choice. I won't force you. She hesitated, flicking her glowing marks in quick pulses. Evan watched the patterns, trying to understand the silent language she used. She was scared, yes, but she also wanted to help. She wanted to trust him fully. Finally, she leaned forward, pressing her small, glowing hand against his chest. The warmth and faint pulse startled him. He felt a strange energy flowing from her, intelligent, powerful, precise. The moment their hands touched, Evan felt a surge of understanding. Systems he barely knew how to operate responded to his thoughts. The ship's shields bent and adapted, more quickly than ever. The crew, watching from consoles, gasped as the energy flow seemed almost alive. Guided by an invisible hand, Lyra's glow pulsed in pain as she pushed herself further. Every adjustment of the shields, every pulse she sent into the systems drained her body more. She trembled, her injured leg barely supporting her. Evan realized that the bond she had formed with him was not just emotionally, was life-saving for both of them. He whispered to her, "You don't have to do this alone. I'm with you." Her eyes softened. For the first time, she allowed herself to lean slightly against him, trusting fully. She pressed her glowing hand more firmly, and the ship responded instantly. Shields shimmered and flowed around incoming energy, bending blasts away from the engines and critical systems. The enemy fleet, observing from a distance, faltered. Their weapons, once precise, now missed their marks. Evan realized that the bond between human and alien was more than trust, it was strategy, power, and instinct combined. But the strain on Lyra was visible. She gasped, her glow dimming rapidly, her chest heaving. Evan held her close, whispering words of encouragement, urging her to continue, urging her to rest if she needed. Through the bond, he could feel her fear, her determination, and her hope. It was more than communication, it was a connection of mind and soul. He understood her choices, her past, and her pain. He knew why she had survived alone in space, why she had been abandoned, why she had trusted only him. Lyra made a final, soft click sound, pressing her hand firmly against his chest. The ship shivered as if alive, then stabilized completely. Shields pulsed in perfect rhythm, energy flows bending with precision. Evan felt a rush of relief. The danger had passed. For now, the fleet retreated, unable to predict the human-alien synergy that had protected the ship. Lyra collapsed into his arms, exhausted and trembling. Her glow faded, leaving only a faint blue shimmer. Evan held her, murmuring, "You did it. We survived. You saved everyone." She opened her eyes slightly, focusing on him. She clicked softly, a sound that could only mean one thing: gratitude, trust, and recognition. Evan smiled gently. "You chose to bond with me. You trusted me. And because of you, we all survived." In that quiet moment, Evan realized the truth. Lyra had made the ultimate choice. Not only had she risked herself to save humans, but she had also forged a bond that could change everything. A disabled, rejected alien had chosen a human not as master or friend, but as partner, equal in trust, courage, and hope. As the stars moved outside the window, Evan held her close, feeling the faint pulses of her glowing patterns against his chest. He knew one thing for certain. Together, they were stronger than any enemy, stronger than fear, and stronger than the darkness of space itself. And in that fragile, glowing connection, a new chapter of survival, hope, and friendship had begun. Asterisk. The Horizon Dawn floated through space like a silver guardian, battered but still alive. The enemy fleet, huge and ominous, had not given up. Their warships hovered at the edge of the nebula, energy cannons glowing red, ready for a final strike. The ship's crew worked tirelessly, repairing what they could. But everyone knew that the next attack could destroy them. Evan held Lyra in his arms. She had been exhausted from their bond, her glowing patterns dimming to a faint shimmer. Every pulse of energy had drained her completely. Yet, even in her weakness, there was a quiet determination in her single, bright eye. She was ready to fight, one last time, if necessary. "They're coming back," one officer said, voice trembling. "The fleet, they won't stop." Evan nodded, looking out at the approaching ships. He felt the weight of responsibility settle heavy on his shoulders. But he also knew something no one else did. Lyra could guide them. She could bend the shields, predict the attacks, and give humans a chance they had never had before. He gently placed her on the floor near the console, supporting her as she tapped her glowing hand against the panels. The metal bent and reshaped, under her touch, responding instantly. Sparks flew, but the energy flow was smooth, almost alive. She was weak, but the knowledge within her was more powerful than any weapon they had. The first blast came, massive and precise. It hit the outer hull, shaking the entire ship violently. Crew members screamed and stumbled, but Evan held her hand, steadying her. "Focus, Lyra. We can do this," he whispered. Her glow pulsed in response, flickering brightly as she directed energy into the shields. The attack bent around the engines, protecting the ship's core. The enemy fired again, larger and faster, but each blast was redirected, deflected, or absorbed. "Look," an engineer shouted. "The shields, they're adapting. The blasts are bouncing off." Evan's heart swelled with pride and fear. Lyra's small frame was guiding the ship's defense. Every motion, every pulse of energy came at the cost of her own strength. She trembled, barely able to lift her hand, yet she did not stop. The enemy fleet paused, confused. Their weapons, designed to destroy, now faltered against something they could not calculate. A weak, injured alien, rejected by her species, had become their greatest obstacle. Evan realized that the bond between them was more than emotional. It was strategy, instinct, and courage combined. The enemy could not predict it, and that gave humans a chance. Another massive blast tore toward the ship. Evan shouted, "Now, Lyra, bend it." She pressed her hand firmly against the console. Her glowing marks flared like lightning, spreading through the metal panels. The blast bent around the engines, redirected through empty space, and then dissipated. Silence fell across the ship for a moment. The enemy fleet recoiled. Lyra gasped, her body trembling violently. Evan caught her immediately, holding her close. Her glow dimmed again, almost fading entirely. "You did it," he whispered. "You saved us all." Her eye, still bright but soft, met his. She made a quiet click sound, one that felt like a smile. She had given everything, risking her life to protect humans she barely knew. The crew who had once rejected her now stared in awe. They understood, finally, what Evan had known from the beginning. She was not weak. She was not a threat. She was extraordinary. The enemy fleet, seeing their weapons deflected and their attacks foiled, slowly retreated into the nebula. The Horizon Dawn was battered, but alive. Humans had survived. And it was because of one small disabled alien who had chosen to bond with a human. Evan held Lyra, gently. "You're safe now," he whispered. "No one will hurt you anymore. Not me, not anyone on this ship." She pressed her hand lightly against his chest, a soft pulse of trust and gratitude flowing through the bond. Her glowing patterns flickered gently, like a heartbeat finally at peace. For the first time, Evan smiled fully. He realized that survival was more than shields and weapons. It was trust, friendship, courage, and hope. And together, they had proven that even the weakest and most rejected could change the fate of an entire crew. He looked at her and said softly, "You're not alone anymore. You have a home with us. You're part of our family," Lyra responded. With a small melodic click, her glow pulsing warmly. For the first time, the fear in her eye was gone. She was safe, she was respected. And she had chosen a human who refused to give up on her. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, silent witnesses to their victory. And inside the ship, a bond between two very different beings had not only saved lives but had also proved something powerful. Courage, trust, and compassion could overcome even the deadliest threats. Evan held Lyra as the crew worked to repair the damage. She rested quietly in his arms, glowing softly, finally at peace. And in that quiet, battered ship, the story of a disabled, rejected alien and the human who chose to trust her reached its emotional end, but also marked the beginning of something extraordinary. In the vast darkness of space, hope had survived. Asterisk,